Great. I'm excited to introduce our community today to Dr. John Douillard, Ayurvedic science guy, founder of Lifespa, author, natural health educator. He's here to talk about lasting gut health, longevity for adults 40 plus, without bubble wrapping your diet or chasing those wellness fads. I'm excited to hear about this, the bubble wrapping your diet. We'll get into that, but for now, welcome, Dr. Douillard. How are you?
Great, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for being here. I hate to skip the whole intro and how'd you get to where you are today, but I think that might bring itself in naturally. So I really do want to hit first and foremost this stop bubble wrapping your diet, rebuild resilience instead, and helping our community wrap their brains around. What does that mean to you? What do you hope people hear out of that?
Well, I think that our culture is so set on eradicating symptoms. And 74% of the population have a digestive issue, a disturbance, a symptom that they're complaining of. So we spend most of our time trying to eradicate that symptom. So if you eat wheat and feel bad, you take wheat out of your diet, blame the wheat. Milk, dairy, nuts, seeds, grains, legumes, nightshades, goitrogens, oxalates, lectins. All of a sudden, the list of things that are bad for us have become exorbitant. Oxalate, everything. And the reality is that we've been eating those foods for thousands and thousands of years. And I get that the processed nature of some of those things and the glyphosate on them are an issue. However, if you have a really good, strong digestive system, those things don't bother you. But for most folks, they don't have a really good digestive. They've got a host of digestive concerns, food intolerance, bloating, gas, all this stuff. And we just blame the food. And oftentimes, the symptom you're getting from eating whatever that aggravator is a canary in the coal mine, telling you that your body is not able to digest that food and probably other ones very, very well. So yeah, of course, take the food out of your diet, but why don't we also troubleshoot what part of your digestion might have been broken down over time and reboot that function versus just take it out of your diet? Because a lot of folks are now not eating a lot of stuff. I mean, there's like people don't eat rice and beans anymore. That's like bad for you. And that's what, the majority of the world still lives on every day to this day and have been doing it for thousands of years. So to take away rice and beans is sort of like a bit of a red flag. I mean, wheat, of course, is a hard to digest protein, but it's been eaten for 3.5 million years. We have the ability to break it down. And I think the worst part of it is that our digestive strength is linked to our ability to detoxify. The same pathways are used. So if you can't digest your wheat, your dairy, your nuts, your seeds, your grains, your beans well, and all the stuff I mentioned, then you don't have the ability to detoxify. In America, we dump 70 million tons of toxic chemicals in our atmosphere every year that filter down on all the food we eat, the air we breathe, and the water we drink. And you can't organic your way out of that. That's everything. So if you don't have good digestive strength, you're going to start seeing digestive issues and food intolerances, and then you're going to lose your ability to detoxify naturally. And that's where, over time, we pay a big price.
Mm-hmm. Lose ability to detoxify. I think what we're about to hit here hard is a bit of a hope story, maybe for anybody who has dwindled their food down to such a small amount that they actually can tolerate. I'm thinking you might have something to speak over us on that. If somebody already has gone the path of removed dairy, removed gluten, removed, can we come back from that, or is that a hard journey? Did we already miss the window of change in there?
Oh, no, absolutely. The whole point is to actually create that wider berth of foods that you were able to tolerate when you were 18. But now if I eat greasy fried food, I really pay a price. I eat wheat, I pay a price. So the idea is to reboot that function and create much more resiliency. When folks have celiac, which is an autoimmune concern regarding wheat, so you take that out of the diet, they do feel better, which is true. But the problem with that is that doesn't solve their problem. They have historically decades of nutritional insufficiencies and digestive problems that continue after the wheat's been taken out of the diet. Of course, you take the wheat out of the diet because it's a hypersensitive reaction, but you didn't really fix the problem. And that's why even people who have celiac and take wheat and never eat it again even, they really need to troubleshoot their digestive system and figure out what part of my digestion might be broken. Take the wheat out, sure. But am I digesting all the other proteins really well? And anything else I'm eating, am I digesting it well? And that's linked to the either nutritional insufficiencies or symptoms of indigestion or intolerances or hypersensitivity reactions, all that. Why do some people can, why some people can't? The reason is because some people don't have the digestive strength. And why don't we see if we can find that weak link and then support that. That to me is the most logical thing to do. Otherwise, you go down the road of just taking everything out of the diet and then there's nothing left. Now, if you read some of the books out there today, you're stuck with meat and you're stuck with maybe a handful of vegetables. Even a lot of them are poison or public enemies, and maybe a little bit of white rice as their only starch. And that's extremely rigid in the way we were designed.
I love that you're saying that, because this crowd that you're talking to is a crowd that's hoping to travel, is hoping to experience life more, not dwindle it down to something small. And even when we say something like travel, for anybody who has dwindled their food choices and categories down like that, it becomes very hard to go places because you have such strict needs or else you're in trouble.
Yeah, it's totally true. I mean, some people will go to Europe and they'll feel better eating the wheat there and that kind of thing. And there's reasons for that. But usually, if you go to Europe and you're eating at the bakeries and you're eating at the hotel, these are places where they're actually using bakeries to make their bread. You can still go into a grocery stores now in Europe and they still make very highly processed bread there, just like we have in our grocery stores, which are really inedible. But so that's one of the reasons why people feel better, because they're not using oils and they're not using a whole host of chemicals in their bread. When you're eating in your hotel or you're eating out of a bakery, they kind of stick to the old-fashioned way. And that's the main reason. And plus, they don't use anywhere near as much glyphosate or pesticides there as we do here. But here, you can still get good quality grain and you can get good quality bread. There's so many artisan bakeries out now that can make that happen. But if you don't do well with that, I think people really do miss eating bread. And the other thing that's really cool about this is that wheat is not harvested historically throughout the year. It's got one season of harvest. So grains were harvested at the end of the summer. And studies show that our amylase, the enzyme that we make to digest it, is actually produced in all of us more in the fall than it is in the spring, in the winter, suggesting that we are circadian beings, right? And we were designed to digest fat in the springtime as the main source of fuel. If you were living off the land, like now, it's like April, we're having this conversation. There's nothing coming out of the ground yet. We're waiting. If you were a hunter-gatherer, you'd have to hunt more, eat more protein and more fat. The body would shift the microbiome to be more what are called actinobacteria, which are really good at getting fat out of the blood, out of the gut for energy. But then the rules change during the summer, at the end of summer, when the grains and the fruits and all the carbohydrates are being harvested, we shift to having more bacteria deets in our gut. At least the hunter-gatherers that were studied did this because they live according to the cycles and the seasons and so on. So we are designed to change our fuel supply. We're not supposed to eat wheat every day of the year, anything you eat all the time, every day in excess is going to overwhelm your system. The body's got cycles of kind of, action and rest. It's like, winter is a dormant season. Summer is a very active season. Those are the laws of nature. So in the springtime, we're supposed to burn our fat, calorie restrict, not eat in many carbs. Just think sort of low carb-esque in the spring. And then come summer, you have the luxury of actually having more amylase, more ability to digest it, and you can actually enjoy some of those carbohydrates without paying the carbohydrate price, which everybody thinks that they're now the new public enemy,
Yes. Thank you. That's so interesting. And it makes a ton of sense. I will say, and I want to dive into this digestion piece. What I hear out of individuals is this all starts to feel so overwhelming. And I don't think this feels overwhelming to you to talk about it. But when people think I'm struggling in this area, they really don't know how to attack the next step. And I thought maybe you could give us some real individual experiences of your clientele of what type of symptoms do they show when they come into you? What are their pain points? And then what are some of those next baby steps or like comforting steps of, hey, this is what we'll investigate. This is how we'll go about this. You don't need to know the whole picture yet. Like, we'll get there. I'd love to hear how you calm people down.
Well, let's say someone comes in with heartburn or indigestion, right?
Hmm.
And in Western medicine, that's called gastroparesis, where the stomach is holding on to the food longer than it should. And in Ayurvedic medicine, which is a traditional ancient system of medicine, they call it upward moving digestion, which I like that word better because when you have heartburn, it's going up, not going down. That's the direction it should go. So when you have what's called upward moving digestion, the food will stay in your stomach longer than it should. It'll digest there, it'll putrefy it, it'll start to push up as it ferments and push up and put pressure on your diaphragm. And it can actually reflux, sometimes even herniate through the diaphragm and cause heartburn or GERD or reflux, right? That's kind of what happens. Well, first of all, the first thing I do is I want to treat this in two ways. I want to treat it from the top down and I want to treat it from the bottom up because the aim is the stomach being overly acidic or irritated or painful. Mm-hmm. There are at least 15 studies in the medical journals that say if you strengthen your diaphragm, you can reverse your heartburn, GERD, reflux, indigestion, lower your blood pressure, and a whole bunch more things when you strengthen your diaphragm. And studies show that with elite athletes, 91% of them did not have a diaphragm relaxing and contracting fully, which means that we can literally breathe away your heartburn. And that much of your heartburn is due to stress, which we know directly causes extra acid in your stomach. It causes you to breathe shallow. Rib cage gets tight. Diaphragm can't contract because the rib cage is now tight. And you go into a whole pattern of breathing that locks up your diaphragm. And your diaphragm is not only able to reverse your heartburn, GERD, and reflux, it's also the number one pump of your body's lymphatic system, which is much more than the thing that you take out when you have cancer. It carries your entire immune system. It delivers fats, fatty acids as baseline energy and hormonal precursors to every cell of your body. And it also takes out all the trash. It's a huge system. And in Ayurvedic medicine, they said that's the longevity system. And what happens is when you don't break down your protein and your fat well in your stomach, proteins will go incompletely digested like the gluten. This is a quote from the medical journal. The little molecules of gluten will be too big, or whatever protein you're not handling well, too big to get into your blood. They'll get uptaken into the garbage can, which we hoped was the toilet, but it's actually the lymph around your belly. The lion's share of the lymph is around your belly. And then when that gets swollen, you get a bigger belly or more weight around your hips or your organs or so on. So what happens is then you start seeing what's called lymphatic congestion. There's what's called the skin-associated lymph, which can make your skin not glow and break out. And they have the brain-associated lymph, which is linked to anxiety, depression, cognitive decline, inflammation, and even autoimmune concerns. So in other words, the point is if you start not digesting well, you dump all the trash into your lymph, which is trying to carry your immune system, deliver fats for your hormones, trying to get all the trash, and you pay over time a very, very big price for that. Accelerated aging, DNA damage, poor mitochondrial function, all that begins to happen. So logically, why don't we go up and fix the digestion? So like I said, there's 15 studies that say the first thing I would do is I would evaluate their breathing and say, how are you breathing? Are you a shallow breather or a deep breather? And if they're breathing really shallow, and even if they aren't breathing shallow, I'm probably going to give them these exercises anyway, because 91% of athletes don't have a diaphragm working properly. So we all sit in front of the couch and we slouch in the car, we slouch in front of our computer, we slouch all the time. And when the rib cage is in a slouching mode, the rib cage is pushing your diaphragm down in a pre-contracted position. When you're sitting on the couch watching a movie, slouching, your diaphragm literally cannot fully contract and fully relax. And over time, the rib cage only has one job: squeeze all the air out. And next thing you know, it becomes a cage. And now your diaphragm becomes weak, and you become a shallow breather, and you have no idea this is happening to you over time. And then you start being short of breath, going upstairs. And now when you're 70s or your 80s or your 90s, you start opening your mouth and you see people start not being able to catch their breath. And this can be completely reversed with 5 minutes a day. And I've written an article called The Best Diaphragmatic Breathing Exercises on my website. My articles are free. But I can teach you now how to do the basic one to get people started, if you like.
Please, yes.
So this is like so simple. We're going to use your arms as levers, okay? So when I take my arms up and I reach up as high as I can, my rib cage is going to go up, right? So if I take my arms and I go up and then I breathe in deeply, my diaphragm goes down when I breathe in. So my diaphragm is going to go down, my rib cage is going to go up. I'm going to break up all the scar tissue between my rib cage and my diaphragm. And your stomach is right up against that diaphragm. That's where it lives. So if that diaphragm isn't working and that stomach is not emptying fast enough, it's going to push against the diaphragm. So what we do is we take our arms up and now we breathe through the nose and we breathe slowly. So we're going to fill our belly first. Fill your belly. Like a Buddha, stick your belly out as you breathe in, as far out as you can. And as you continue breathing, go to your chest. As you continue to breathe, go to the upper chest. Now to take it to what we call maximal, take little sips of air as you reach as high as you can. Sip, sip, sip to take to the max. And when you do that, you should feel a little pull under the rib cage. Breathe out. Now when you breathe out, contract your abdomen all the way and squeeze every last bit out. Arms go back up. Fill your belly all the way. Chest, upper chest, reach, sip, sip, and arms come down. You kind of see dogs do this in the morning when they wake up. They go like that, you know what I mean? We're doing the same thing, but we're making sure that that diaphragm and rib cage are independent of each other and they become locked together. So that's how you treat it from the top down. And then, by the way, that diaphragm is the pump of your brain's lymph and lymphatic systems, which take 3 pounds of trash out of your head every year while you sleep at night, linked to, like I said, anxiety, depression, cognitive decline, inflammation, and even autoimmune concerns. In the study, the first study that came out related to long-haul COVID showed it was due to congestion of the brain's lymphatic and lymphatic system, which means you can't breathe during COVID, right? So the diaphragm got locked up. You lost your pump for all this trash removal, and now the immune system can't get its trash out. The brain doesn't know how many fire trucks to send to the immune event in your body, so it sends either too little or too many, and that's an autoimmune concern. So whenever you have an autoimmune concern, we have to look at the brain, lymph, and lymphatic systems that are taking the trash out, that are directly linked to your diaphragm as the pump of your cerebrospinal fluid, which is your brainwashing fluid. That is buried in the medical journals. Really good science, but nobody talks about it. Nobody told you that you could breathe away the long-haul COVID. It was in the medical journal, right? So it's pretty straightforward. So that's the top down. You want to make sure your diaphragm is working before you even try to fix your stomach, right? Okay. And the more you breathe long, slow, and deep, the more you activate the lower lobes of your lungs, which are innervated by the parasympathetic rebuild, rejuvenate nervous system. So it helps to kind of chill you out and calm you down. Now, the next piece is, why is the food in your stomach not leaving fast enough? And that usually has to do with your liver not producing enough bile fast enough. Bile is think about this. You have your stomach right here, you have your liver down here, you have a bunch of acid here. Somebody's got to put that fire out. And your liver is in charge of that. And your enzymes, digestive enzymes, but your liver primarily. So if you're not making enough bile, you're not going to buffer the acid. So the stomach is going to be reluctant to let all this acid go into the small intestine. So it'll hold on to it, give you heartburn. The bile also makes you poop. Bile regulates how you go to the bathroom, your regularity, your consistency of bowel movement. So if you don't have good bile, your body will hold on to the acid longer than it should. It won't let you go to the bathroom consistently. You have more constipation tendencies. And also the bile is the Pac-Man, gobbling up all the toxins, all the fat-soluble compounds, the glyphosate, all the bad stuff. And it also cleans your villi, so your intestinal villi are actually functioning the way they were designed. So we got to clean up your liver, and there's herbs called cholagogues, really simple. And the ones that I like the best, like they're super simple, you can get them anywhere, are apples, beets, and celery. Those are called. And I have an article I wrote called ABC Juice, like super simple. So add more apples, beets, and celeries to your diet. There's a bunch of spices that have been shown to reboot your upper digestive strength. And there are 5 of them. And they're ginger, cumin, coriander, fennel, and cardamom. So you could cook with those spices. You can sprinkle it on your food as you're eating it, on your salad as you're eating it. But whenever you use those spices, you're going to reboot the coordinated ability of your stomach to make the acid, your liver to make the bile, your pancreas and duodenum to make the enzymes. All of a sudden, whatever you put in your mouth is getting broken down in the upper digestion. So when it goes into your intestinal tract, it doesn't find its way as undigested proteins and fats, clogging up your lymphatic system, blocking the precursors to all your hormones, not letting you take the trash out, and blocking your immune delivery system. Those are like critical, important things. And they all stem from digestion. So when you have a digestive issue, I don't eat this, I don't feel good eating it. Sure, don't eat it. But man, the concept of not just saying I don't eat wheat because wheat's bad, or I don't eat nuts or oxalates because they're bad, sets you up for real major problems down the road, like we just described.
Right. Oh, okay. So again, I keep trying to like bring our listeners back to like breathe, breathe for a second, because I think people get overwhelmed really fast and they can hear everything you're saying. And then they want to know how to, they too be the expert in it. And I'm curious on your end, and I'm appreciating that you're bullet pointing things. Like if people are taking nothing else away for this first listen through, the breath work is imperative. Our food and how we choose to approach food and variety and colors and types is going to be very important. It's interesting because my mom went vegan and a lot of her recipes, like all the spices that you just mentioned, are almost in all of her recipes she makes all the time. Like when I eat her food, I accidentally eat this type of eating. But so the person who has taken out the wheat has taken out too much, what you would be considering like we've taken away too many options that are really healthy for us. What's that slow integration? How do we get it back in? And I know I kind of asked you 2 things at once, but maybe you can separate the 2.
So what I would do first for folks, I mean, the breathing I just told you, and there's way more exercises for breathing you can get, on my website for free. But we also have a digestive health quiz where you just go to lifespa.com and take the quiz, and asks you questions about your stomach, your liver, your gallbladder, your pancreas, your duodenum, your intestinal tract, the lymph around your belly. And you find out what part of the digestive system is broken. And then I give you tools to kind of just reboot those specific things, which is a really good place to start. We also have a lymphatic health quiz where you go and you take the lymph quiz. And that's really cool because now you're going to find out, is it my lymphatic system? And you'll be surprised. Your lymph is the drainage system. So it's really our ability to take the trash out. And most of us aren't great at that. And so once you kind of find out, hey, you know what? These are all lymph concerns. My skin is breaking out. My complexion is low. I have bloating, gas. My rings get tight in my fingers. I hold on to water. I'm tired, lethargic, and fatigued, brain fog. These are all lymph concerns. So we add the breathing because the breathing is the pump for your lymph. And then we kind of give you other tools to kind of move your lymphatic system. But it's great to just kind of run through some simple questions and go, okay, that's a great place to start. What I would do is I would just start for folks, I would add the breathing and I would give them start adding more of those spices when you cook your food for sure. And those would be 2 things to start. The third thing, which is again, like super logical, if you think about a hunter-gatherer eating their food, they ate what was in season, right? It was really important. And it turns out that the bugs, like I mentioned before, in your gut, supposed to, hunter-gatherer guts, their bugs would change from one season to the next, because every season, the bugs have a medicinal property. Like in the winter, those bugs in the winter, they boost immunity. In the spring, they help decongest you from allergies. In the summer, they help the body get rid of heat. These are just natural things. There's what are on every food that's organic, processed food. They're sterile. Nutraceuticals that aren't just the whole plant are sterile. And we have a problem in our culture, which is lack of diversity. So when you start eating natural things in season, you start inoculating your gut with the right bugs for the right season. And what I did was I wrote a book years ago called The Three Season Diet, which is the three harvests in nature. There's a spring harvest, we all know. It's not a lot, but it's very important. The summer harvest is abundant. And then there's a fall harvest for winter eating. And those are the three seasons. So what you do is, if you can get this grocery list, which is free on my website, you just print it out. And this is the spring list. And this is all the foods harvested from around the world in the spring. Circle the ones that you like, whatever ones you like, and just go eat more of them. It's that simple. You don't have to make eating complicated. But then you would, come summer, you would change your diet, and you change your diet to the blue one in the summer. In the winter, you take the red one. And now you're starting to, get your body aligned with the rhythms of nature, because the soil is where the circadian rhythms live, where the bugs hold on to that rhythm. When we eat them, we start to entrain our biological clocks with nature's circadian rhythms. And now we're in sync. That's what's called circadian disruption, which is Nobel Prize winning science, that when our clocks and the rhythms of nature go out of sync, we're screwed. And a lot of really bad problems happen. So just doing that simple thing of just eating a few more avocados in the winter or whatever, or leafy greens in the spring or whatever, or berries in the spring or fruits in the summer. But the diet changes. So it gives you, if you really want your bread, you can have your bread, but you're going to have more of it in season. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it's very simple, really, but it puts people in tune. Just to have some basic idea of what are some of the foods in the spring that I can find here that I can like and pig out on. Go for it.
Right. Yes, exactly. Do you know what I'm loving about you, Dr. Douillard, is this whole, every question I've had, you've had I already have that. Go to my quiz. Go ahead and take that. It will point you in a direction. There's this, that feels nice. I can go do that. Or what are all these fruits or vegetables that I should be eating in season? You're like, here's a list. It's color coded. Circle them. Thank you. You have brought it to this. It's accessible. We know how to get to it. And it's the next step. I'm going to keep saying it. We don't have to have it all figured out, but we do need to know the next tangible, next actionable step that we can take to uncover that next onion layer of that makes a little more sense. I have another direction I can go with that, right? Thank you for simplifying all of that. I did have a question with this whole, when people feel like they're doing all the right things, all right, and then they're still getting this bloated, the tired, do you see people who feel like they've started to head down even this better path, and they're like, man, I'm still struggling here?
Well, I definitely see people who are struggling with food intolerances and the host of symptoms that go along with it that get better. And, sometimes, I'm not, like I said, I'm not, like you said, I'm not, I try to be the Ayurvedic science guy. So what I do is I try to take kind of ancient medical wisdom that's been around for thousands of years, time tested. So, you figure if it didn't work after 100 years, I would have stopped doing it. So if it's around for 1,000, there must be kind of something to it. So then I say, well, let's try to see if I can find any science based on that time-tested medical wisdom. And that's what I write about. So we have ancient time-tested practices and science. You put the two together, I feel like that's a great place to start for folks. And you can find studies that coffee's good, coffee's bad, wheat's good, wheat's bad, you name it. I can give you studies on both sides. Science alone is just so, high protein is good. High protein, I just wrote an article kind of debunking this whole crazy notion of taking a gram of protein for every pound of body weight. There's no studies to show that will extend your life, but there's tons of studies showing if you eat a moderate amount of protein, it will extend your life. So it's there's so much confusion that I feel like our ancestors, they had something going for them because the species is still here. And if you can then have science, most of the science that I dig up is literally buried in the medical journals. None of it's in medical practice, which is so weird to me that that's the way science works. But then you bring out something like, hey, why don't we eat in season? There's tons of science to show that we should be doing this, but nobody does it. It's the most logical diet on the planet, I think, but for some reason, people don't quite get it. It's not hard, just eat more of what's in season. It doesn't mean you have to eat only what's in the season. It's not restrictive. It's just get medicinal dosage of what nature intended in that season and you'll be good.
Right. I think that individuals have been handed diets, especially in our current generation. Anybody who's had the parents who did all the dieting and all the
Yeah.
things that people have been handed plans for so long that we've stripped away this intuitive piece of really understanding, to your point, the purpose of true nutrition. What does true diet or nutrition look like? And it's healing, it's fueling. We don't use it as medicine, and it is medicine, but I think maybe for some individuals it feels too woo-woo even. Like there's other things that fix that. Surely it can't be as simple as food, or surely it can't be as simple as eating more in season. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Are we undereducated in this area, or over the like too much wellness noise that we don't know how to bring it back to more simplified?
Oh, I mean, I think it's just so confusing. You have the vegans, the vegetarians, the pescatarians, the protein, high protein, then there's the keto diets, then there's the carnivore diet, and then there's, high carb, low carb. You could go crazy looking at all these diets. And what's interesting is that all those diets, for the most part, they actually exist as a part of nature. So think about, you have the low carb diet in the spring. There's no carbs coming out. There's no pizza or pasta coming out of the ground in your springtime. You have a high carb diet in the summer. You all know the fruits and the grains harvested in the end of the summer. So that's the high carb time of the year. And if you're living in the winter in Vermont in January sometime, you were going to have to hunt because there was nothing other to eat. So it was a high protein, high fat time of the year. Mm-hmm. And then come spring, it's low carbohydrate, which meant you're going to maybe consume more fat from the hunting that you just did, but you're going to burn fat as your fuel supply and change your fuel supply. It's like applied logic that nature has been doing for thousands of years. And we decided to say, well, let's everybody only eat high protein. Let's everybody eat no carbohydrates. Remember that the Atkins diet, I remember that years ago in the 90s, that was the big high protein diet, no carb. Everybody started getting kidney problems from having too much protein. You can't stay on it because it doesn't really satisfy you. So guess what? The next best-selling diet gave you permission to do exactly what that diet told you couldn't do. Pritikin was 80% carbohydrates. That was the big selling diet back then. So every diet just gives you permission to do what the other diet just left you craving. So it's just one binge yo-yo diet after another. It's crazy when you think about how manipulated we've been. Mm-hmm. So that's why I say nature is not manipulating you. Nature is saying there are foods that come out of the ground to this day. We've done some hybridizing, so I get that. But for the most part, nature's still intact, thank God. And we just have to apply a little bit of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, all right. Let's bring it strictly back to this digestion piece. If somebody has gone and seen a GI doc after GI doc, and they're like, I am not getting better, they go to a more integrative, holistic, and they've done all the food sensitivity testings. I know I'm kind of circling, and we've already talked some of this, but I just want to make it a little more clear. For somebody who has taken the deep dive in this area and doing what you're saying not to do, like it all gets just super restrictive. I feel like we had them your direction, obviously, to like your resources, but then what's surrounding the average person, whether that's a physician, a holistic physician, or being able to jump on a Zoom call with you? Like, what's that next step where somebody goes, I know where to find what I need next?
So here's the thing. And if you go to a Western doctor, they're going to give you a drug like a heartburn pill that blocks your acid, which we already talked about. You can breathe away your heartburn. And there's good science in their medical journal that says you can reverse your heartburn by breathing. And then if you reboot digestion and the things I mentioned, you can be on your way. The naturopathic functional medicine world would just give you digestive enzymes. That's what they do. And now I'm giving you an enzyme to do the digesting for you. So I'm doing the job for your body, but in a more natural way. And you're probably going to feel better. But the more enzymes you take, the less enzymes you make. So now I've created a dependency. So now I got to take this pill for the rest of my life. This is the problem with this concept of doing the job for the body, whether it be with drugs, which is not really natural, or with, or nutraceuticals or digestive enzymes or natural hormones. We're doing the job for the body, and now the body becomes dependent on that pill or powder. So what the traditional systems of medicine, including ancient Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine from India, they would say like that concept of doing it for you doesn't even make any sense because there's no way to get the pills and powder for the rest of your life like it is today. You can get it at Amazon to your house and it's easy to get that. Back then, you take a pill or a powder or an herb to reboot the function of your stomach or reboot the function of your lymphatic system or your pancreas or your duodenum or whatever. And your reboot function, get on, get better, get off. You don't become dependent on a pill or a powder. So that's the concept, which is like, for most folks thinking logically, that's a really better place to start. If it doesn't work, well, then let's go and maybe try the enzymes. And if that doesn't work, I'll try the drug, right? But that's better sequence than just go on a pill or powder that you're going to be on for the rest of your life, which is directly blocking your ability to make those yourself. That doesn't make logical sense. So the first step would be for folks to, like I said, take those health quizzes. The other thing is eat seasonally, which you can do for free. It's easy. The other thing is we know now, and ancient wisdom knew thousands of years ago, so why people in Europe and Asia still eat their bigger meal in the day, in the middle of the day. We know that that's when we digest our food better. So one of the things that folks can do is to start, front loading their food with more food at breakfast and lunch and less with supper. And the research on that is off the charts in terms of lowering your blood pressure, lowering your heartburn and digestion, giving you more energy. Because when you eat food after the sun sets, the cooks go home at sunset, they're gone. So there's nobody there to cook it. So it's going to sit there and gain weight and bloat and create your lymphatic congestion. So best you can try to have, earlier suppers or bigger lunches and lighter suppers, but try to get fed before nighttime happens. So you're not sitting there at 8 o'clock at night going, I'm going to go raid the refrigerator. And then the other thing that folks can do, that's just like so simple, is research show if you were to eat a big meal and then go plop yourself down on the couch, that food is going to enter into your arterial lining and it's going to be very irritating. The most dangerous part of eating is what happens to that food when it first gets into your arteries before it goes into your cells. And along the way, it can create irritation, inflammation along your arterial lining. The research shows all you got to do, this is an ancient technique, it's called Shata Pavali, which means take steps after you eat your food. So you eat the food in a relaxed way and then go for a walk after a meal. And if you can't go for a walk, take the clicker in your hand, go in front of the TV and march for 15 minutes, just like this, while you're trying to find the Netflix show or whatever it is. But just for 15 minutes before you plop on the couch, move your body, because the research on that shows get the food out of your stomach faster so you don't get the heartburn, GERD, reflux. It'll actually get the sugar out of your blood into your cells without insulin. It uses the GLUT4 receptors. So you don't even need insulin to get the sugar out of your blood to lower the blood sugar spike. The research on blood sugar and blood pressure and the research on that simple thing, eat a bigger lunch, walk after the meal. If you still have trouble, start eating seasonally and then start to use some spices and then try to troubleshoot maybe what part of the digestion is broken, if there's constipation or whatever. Then there's more specific herbs and therapies that you can do that are going to be a little more dialed in. But I try to on my website give people as much information for free so they can self-help themselves back into balance.
Thank you. That was a beautiful summary, by the way. That just tied that up with a bow. And I'd be remiss if I don't ask you this, because this lymphatic system, I feel like we hear about it when you watch influencers or whatnot. Like, lymphatic system gets hype because of products that come with lymphatic system, whether it's the boot compressions for legs and like getting the lymphatic system going, or I forget what the devices are called that you can scrape on your skin and move lymphatic. Can you explain to our audience, and maybe you're not talking something different, but like, how do those two components differ?
Well, you have to remember when you do scraping or exfoliation, you're working on what's called the skin-associated lymphatic tissue, or SALT. That's what that is. So that's great for the surface lymph. But you have deep lymph, which are the big carriers of the toxins in the immune system and so on. And those, you want to make sure that whatever you're eating, you're digesting so it doesn't clog up your lymphatic system, because that's what the science shows. Undigested proteins and fats will go into your lymph and create lymphatic congestion. That's where all the symptoms come from. But things that will actually help your lymph are really simple, right? Green, leafy, anything that's green, and anything that will take your white shirt and dye it red, black, or blue, like a blueberry, blackberry, or cranberry, or strawberry, or beet, or anything like that that we use historically, ancient times, as dye, that's a lymphatic mover. And then, of course, hydration and movement. Those are the things you want to be thinking about to keep your lymphatic system moving. Yeah, and those oscillating vibrations, I actually like those. I like rebounding. I like anything that gets you moving. They're really good. You know, those compression things, which are new and kind of buzzy. My wife just bought one, and I think it's sort of fun. I mean, I think it feels kind of good, but I mean, we can do this ourselves. If you really have a pathology and your legs are swelling, then that could be a great relief. But there's a reason why your legs are swelling, and that's because there's an underlying digestive issue that's allowing the proteins and fats to get into your lymph undigested and creating a lot of inflammation and swelling and irritation and congestion and immune compromise and a host of things that are like easy to fix, you know. And I've written many articles. Just go to my website and type in lymph, and you'll hear there's articles on the brain lymphatic system, articles on the lymph, and I've written about every strategy that's got science behind it that will actually support that.
Okay, I'm so excited to dig into your research. I'm going to be on your website for sure. Name it again, and we'll put it in the show notes. But just for anybody just listening at the moment, what's your one-stop shop?
It's called lifespa.com, Lifespa.com. And when you're there on the homepage or something, it says new here, start here. Just click on that banner right there, and that'll take you to all the quizzes, these free grocery lists, and the digestive health quiz, the lymph quiz. It's all right there for you. You don't have to search around for it. And then from there, you can type in your health concern, and then off you go. Start reading about things you can do naturally to breathing techniques. There's so many breathing techniques and videos, all science-based, that you can follow and start learning how to really take care of yourself.
Thank you. You have been an absolute delight. Appreciate your time, your wisdom, and please come back and we can do a part 2 because we're going to have to, no pun intended, let everybody digest this content because it's deep.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you.